What is happening, people? Chattin Pony with Paddy The Baddy. We're back again, but familiar surroundings. We're not in California, in America no more. We're back in Liverpool, and we've got a great guest on today, someone who's a pioneer in the UFC. So, as always, I'd like you to introduce yourself, Tito.
Yep, Tito Ortiz, former light heavyweight champion and UFC Hall of Famer. What's up? Paddy The Baddy. You the man, dude. Here for a while now.
I'm
taking some names and
I'm trying, lad. I'm trying to get the sort of shit done you got done, lad. I'm trying to climb them rankings, but it's a deep pool, so it's gonna take a while.
Yeah, if you keep talking the way you're talking and backing it up, it won't take that much longer.
Hopefully, that's what I'm hoping anyway. But just to get started, obviously you're in the UFC, but it was in the dark ages of the sport. So I'm guessing, well, I know you wrestled first, as most early MMA and UFC fighters did. So what was your sort of wrestling background?
I started wrestling in high school. Then I wrestled in junior college. And at that time, Tank Abbott, who fought in the UFC, I was his training partner, or his wrestling partner, because all we did was wrestle and jiu-jitsu. I never sparred with him because he was a heavyweight. And I didn't know boxing at the time. And I didn't even know if I was going to fight. I mean, my first fight in UFC 13, May 30th, 1997, I fought as an amateur. I fought for free. I was the only UFC fighter in UFC history to fight for free. It was because I loved it, man. I wanted to see how good of an athlete I could be. And stopped my first guy in 22 seconds. And then I fought Guy Metzger, who was, I think, ranked third in the world at the time. And I was smashing him. And then they stopped it for a cut. They checked the cut. And at the time, they never did stop any fights for cuts. They let them go. And but for my fight, they did. And they stood us back on our feet, didn't put us back in the same position, started us back on our feet, and he threw a right hand, and I got clipped, and I was like, oh, shit. So I went for a takedown. I hit a double, and he got me in a guillotine and choked me, and he won the, middleweight title at that time, the tournament title. And I fought twice in one night and fought for free. And like I said, you're only UFC fighter to do that. And a year and a half later, became the world champion, man, and all came because of my wrestling skills. And I learned, throughout my career, I just, the tough thing was trying to learn and the jiu-jitsu side of it, the kickboxing side of it, the boxing side of it, because I never knew any of that stuff. But I was an amateur fighting pro and being a world champion and still being an amateur and just learning. So I think that's why I've had such a long, successful career is I've always been learning. I've always look outside the box to understand what do I have to add to become a better fighter. And I talked a lot of shit, so I had to back it up. But wrestling is something that gave me the forte of hard work and dedication, just busting my ass and putting in the work, putting in anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, and living the life of a fighter, not really taking it as a hobby. This is my lifestyle. This is my life. This is what I eat, sleep, and train. That's all I did.
One of the most interesting things for me there, what you just said though, you didn't start wrestling until high school.
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
That's pretty late, isn't it? Like usually they wrestle younger than that, don't you, in America?
Yeah, most of the time they do. I really didn't know what collegiate wrestling was or amateur wrestling. I didn't know what it was until I walked into the wrestling room. I asked the coaches, "Where's the ring at?" He goes, "Ring? What do you mean ring?" I go, "Like WWF, which WWE now," because I was a big fan of those guys. The coach goes, "No, this is real wrestling," and I go, "But I get to slam a guy on his head." He goes, "Actually, you get points for it." Shit, I was all in. Let's do it. And I started varsity my first year. But I think in my mind, what I had that a lot of other guys didn't have was the hard work ethic. I dreamt about something and I wanted it, so I perceived to work for it and make it happen. And wrestling varsity my first year and going to junior college after graduating high school and winning 2 state titles there. Then going to Division I at Cal State Bakersfield. I just learned I learned the hard work ethic of just putting in the work, never looking for excuses to not doing the work. There's days that I'd get up and going, why the hell am I doing this? But come to realize that I was trying to get educated in college, and wrestling was my, kind of torch into getting educated, and it was important for me.
Yeah, that's quality, to be honest. But obviously it wasn't just the wrestling what shaped it into becoming a MMA fighter, but a cage fighter is what people knew it as back then. Surely the mean streets of Huntington Beach played a big part in you becoming the Huntington Beach bad boy.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from as a kid, I always got my ass beat by my brothers. I mean, I have 4 older brothers, so I used to beat my ass all the time. And that's what got me into wrestling. I wanted to wrestle because I wanted to fight back one day. But, you know, growing up in Huntington Beach, punk rock was a huge fad at the time. You know, everybody slam danced and, you know, we listened to punk music. Grew up kind of in a tough neighborhood. People kind of say, oh, Huntington Beach is not really a tough neighborhood. But, you know, at the time when there were skinheads and punk rockers and everything, everybody was fist fighting. You know, there's never no shootings or guns or stabbings or anything like that. Everybody did fist fighting, you know. A real man takes an ass whipping and able to kind of lick his wounds and either whoop some ass or take an ass whooping. And that's how Huntington Beach was, you know. There was kind of street mentality like that with all my friends. But when I got into fighting, it was just the Huntington Beach bad boy stuck. You know, I spoke my mind. You know, I talked a lot of shit, but I backed it up. A lot of it, though, was, you know, I have my 3 rules. That's really important that I continue to do through my career. You know, I've been competing now for 25 years. Is don't talk about a person's family, don't talk about a person's country, and don't lie. If you can do those 3 things and you can talk shit and you can back it up, the fans love it. And I think that's what's really important, because I watched a lot of the guys, you know, guys like Connor, and they start talking about people's wives and shit. And that's just a line that shouldn't be drawn. Families can't defend themselves. You know, when we talk about a fighter, you know, talk about his character, talk about his person, talk about him. Don't talk about the people that are around him, family-wise at least. And those are the type of rules that I used that helped me. You know, I once again, at the end of the day, when the fight was over, you're going to shake the guy hand and said, no, good job.
Yeah, I like them 3 rules, to be honest. They're 3 very good rules. They are. But I've been there before where I've never said nothing about anyone's family. I never would. I agree with that. I think I've mentioned the country by accident in the past, though, and I have got a crazy backlash. Like, a crazy backlash. And I'm just like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those fans come from those other countries. They're your friends also.
Yeah.
So why would you want to talk about and kind of pigeonhole yourself talking about other countries when those people are supporting you? And I mean, I have so many friends that live in other countries that it's not the fault of the fighter of what country he's from. It's not their fault. It's just the fighter in front of you that you're trying to manipulate his mind, manipulate what he's going to say, and, you know, get the best out of him or the worst out of him, either way. And I think those are the lines that got to be drawn.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a very good point. One for you is there. Any aspiring MMA fighters? There's one from an legend. But so what was it obviously like in the early days of the sport? Because for me, the first UFC I watched live personally was UFC 103. Rich Franklin versus Vitor Belfort. Obviously, you was competing in like UFC 13 and stuff. So what were the dark ages of the sport like? Because I wasn't even alive for some of it.
Well, you know, when I first watched it was in 1993. I just graduated high school, and I said, what are these crazy bastards doing? Holy shit, these guys are just, they're mine. I never thought to be an MMA fighter, never wanted to be an MMA fighter. It was by pure accident. But as I competed, you know, the venues were big at the time when it first started in UFC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. About 6 is when it pretty much got to the dark ages where it no longer was on pay-per-view. The owner of the company at the time was Bob Meyerowitz with SEG. And he pretty much told Ted Turner that he's going to be bigger than him one day. And he don't care if he's on pay-per-view or not. And that kind of shot himself in the foot by doing that. And they were losing. They were losing everything really, really quick. You know, they went from being 15,000-seat arenas to going to 3,000-seat arenas, and can't even fill up 3,000-seat arenas. And that's when I kind of got into the business. And, you know, there wasn't many fans. It was kind of the diehard fans at the time. But I always thought if I had to be outside of the box, you know, I can't be just like the normal fighter from Brazil or a normal fighter from America who's a wrestler. Or, you know, I looked at being, you know, an icon of the sport. I guess I kind of thought of it that way because I watch Muhammad Ali, I watch Hulk Hogan, I watch these guys in the respectable sport to be, you know, outside of the box. I'm not just an average person. And that's the way I thought, you know, what could I say to get people's attention? What could I do to get people's attention? You know, having flames on my shoulders, bleached blonde hair, talking shit and backing it up, and just saying the things that everybody wanted to be heard of what people wanted to say. And I said it, but I backed it up. And like I say, I look back at my history and I was lucky, not lucky, the hard work paid off of becoming a world champion, but I backed it up when I fought. You know, it wasn't that I talked shit to sell tickets. I talked shit just to get into the mind of the fighter psychologically. You know, it's psychological warfare to me. If I could get into his mind and make him angry as hell when it came to the fight time that he wasn't going to fight his game, or on the opposite side of getting him so angry that he just would make mistakes through the fight. And I was able to do that. And guys actually looked past me because they're like, oh, this kid just wrestles. He's not that tough. Because I can remember Jerry Bolander when I competed, and he thought the same thing. It was like, yeah, I'm just going to smash this guy. And I ended up smashing him within, I believe, it was 13 minutes. And that was back when there was only 3 weight classes. You know, it was 170 pounds and under. Then there was 199 pounds to 170. Then it was 199 and over was heavyweight. And that was the only weight classes they had. John Lewis, who was a friend of mine who did jiu-jitsu, or trained me in jiu-jitsu, black belt from Carlson Gracie. He was friends with Lorenzo Fertitta, Dana White, Frank Fertitta, and they had a conversation, and I guess they heard that the UFC was being sold. And they came up with $2.2 million and bought the UFC. And I was the champion at the time. They asked me, what would be the perfect weight class for you? And I said, it's really hard for me to get down to 199 pounds. If you can make it 205, that would be a blessing in disguise, and I'd be very thankful for it. So I was the first light heavyweight at 205 pounds. And reigned as world champion for, 5 consecutive times over 3.5 years. I found my calling. I was, as a kid growing up, my parents chose drugs over me. My father chose drugs over me. And I don't want to let that hinder me. I didn't want to let that, make me a victim. And I wanted to be a victor, so I had to be successful. And once again, when I got into wrestling, that's what made me work hard. And when I got into fighting, it made me work more hard because I wanted to make sure that my future was going to be great. And UFC gave me the opportunity. When the Fertittas bought it, they bought it because of me. I was that brash. I was that, shining star to them, the poster guy that they wanted to put forward. And I was fortunate. They gave me an opportunity, and I ran with it. And, like I say, you fake it until you make it. And I wasn't faking it. I was putting my life on the line every fight that I went out there. And, cutting the weight was hard. That was probably half the battle. But I worked hard. I always went in either in the best shape of my life or off a small injury during my career. It went on later on because I trained so hard. I would put so much in the gym that I didn't really learn how quality was better than quantity. And as I got older, I kind of realized the quantity works way better than quality, or quality works way more than quantity, because the more you work, the more stress you put on your body for injuries and so forth. I look in the history of MMA and how fast it has grown. I'm just kind of blown away by it, but I knew it was going to get to this point. I'm not sure if it was going to be this fast, but I knew it was going to get to this point. I'm glad to see it in my lifetime. I'm glad to see it in my career of fighting, to see where it is today. And now guys like you, man, you guys are the next ones to carry the torch. And it's amazing. Back then, we didn't have social media. That was the biggest thing. Not having social media was something that all we had was online. It was, I think, the Underground Forum. And I would go on there and talk shit all the time. And, I would just say one sentence things and people would just run forever on post on it. But now that you guys have social media, it's a totally different game. Everybody will know who you are forever. And I hope people to think the same way of me, because I was one of the guys to help the UFC get where they were. And I'm thankful for it. But like I said, the hard work pays off.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It is always hard work. I always say hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I know it's off a film or something, but I always say that one. The one thing I am envious of the old school days, though, is the tournaments. I'd love to fight multiple times in one night. I would. Yeah,
that's I think as the challenge gets tougher and tougher and tougher, you kind of realize that that's why you only fight one time a night.
Yeah.
Fighting twice a night, and you're taking an ass whip in the first one, and you win by decision, and all of a sudden your adrenaline's through the roof, and now your adrenaline dump is gone, and now you got to warm up for another fight. It makes it a lot more challenging, for sure. It's just, like I said, the quality of fighters now are totally different compared to the qualities of fighters prior. Even before I fought, the guys were just one-dimensional. They were wrestlers who knew ground and pound, or they're kickboxers who try to learn how to wrestle. And I think kind of the first generation of well-rounded guys were like guys like Frank Shamrock, that understood everything. They understand the jiu-jitsu part of it, they understood the stand-up part of it, and the wrestling part of it. And then it kind of transferred to me and Chuck, and then Randy Couture. Actually, me, Randy, and Chuck were probably the same time. I know me and Randy fought on the same card, UFC 13. He was at heavyweight. I was at light heavyweight. But we kind of evolved with the sport as it came along. I mean, I know I did. I mean, I went along and did the kickboxing, did the jiu-jitsu, went and trained with all the best guys possible. I really didn't learn jiu-jitsu probably until like my fifth year, just because I wanted to learn all the defenses of jiu-jitsu before I could learn the offenses, so I would get caught in submissions. Because, you know, my first night of fighting, I fought two times in one night. I got caught in a guillotine. Well, never my career after that, I got caught in a guillotine again. I got caught in them, but I got out of them. But it was just, once again, learning the defenses through those things that, I mean, nowadays, doing the tournament, it's a lot more difficult for sure. Unless it was a long period of time, you know, whereas a couple months in between, I think that'd be better. But, I mean, you're a savage to say you want to fight more than once in one night. I mean, it's tough. A lot tougher than what people think.
Oh, yeah. What you said, prime example, like at the adrenaline dump, it'd affect you, like, especially as well now the level of everyone. Like back then, not everyone was as good as yourself and the Chucks and the Randys, you know what I mean? Then it's just three legends straight away you've just mentioned, and Frank Shamrock, and you've fought them all. Like, who haven't you fought at light heavyweight? It's more the question.
Yeah, I fought everyone, the who's who. I mean, I guess back in the day, the only person I didn't fight was Quinn Rampage Jackson and Sakuraba. I think those are the only two guys. And Shogun. Shogun was another guy I never fought. I think those are the only three guys that were huge names, former champions that I never got a chance to compete with. You know, with Rampage it was a little different because we were on the same team. We're Team Punishment. He was in Pride in Japan smashing guys, and I was in UFC in the States smashing guys. And I never made that crossover to go over to Pride. But, you know, Rampage got to a point where he's like, all right, I got to come to UFC. So he came over to UFC, and that was like more the end of my career. So it actually worked out well. Yeah,
nice. The perfect timing, to be honest, as you say, to avoid fighting each other. But what's your favourite fight then, looking back now? It's a question I always get asked, and I don't always know how to answer it, because on a certain day, another fight can mean more to me. But I always have to ask it to fighters, what's like the best fight when you look back now?
Well, you know, I have two top fights that really made the difference in my life. One, of course, becoming a world champion, beating Vanderlei Silva for the vacant world title. That changed my life. You know, I had that kid in me going, dude, you did it. I remember sleeping with my belt for the whole month. My girlfriend at the time, she was like, are you crazy? I go, no, I'm just dedicated. And I love this belt that's sitting here on my lap because I worked my ass off for it. And the second fight, I think a lot of it came from just my life, private life in general at that time was just in turmoil. And I fought Ryan Bader. I remember everyone in the press conference is asking me, so what are you going to do after this fight after you lose? And they were looking at them like they were weirdos. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm kicking his ass no matter what. And I remember Michael Bisping was doing the Ultimate Fighter, and I went in to go talk to some of his guys, and all the guys were telling me, go, Tito, man, do the Gravedigger for me. And I was like, no, man, you got to wait till Saturday night. When I fight on Saturday night, you can watch me do it on TV. They're like, no, really, stop bullshitting around. Can you just do it for us? Like, no, you'll watch on Saturday night. I remember I hit Ryan Bader with the left hook and dropped him and got him in a choke and choked him, and he tapped. And the first thing that popped in my mind was like, oh, yeah, the guy's the Ultimate Fighter. I got to do the Gravedigger right now. Those two fights were the ones that marked in my mind of like, I went through so much mental stuff to become what I wanted. It was just a gratifying feeling in my heart knowing that the hard work paid off. And like I say, I look back on it, and maybe winning the world title wasn't as important to me as beating Ryan Bader, because at that time I was going through a bad relationship. I had children with the person, and I had to be a father. You know, I had to step up, and I had to do something for my future. If I would have lost, I would have lost out on, goddamn, at least $5 million. A lot of money a lot of money I could have missed out on, but I didn't. You know, I kept honest to myself. I lived with my ex, and we slept in the same bed, didn't talk to each other for 8 weeks. I prepared for the fight. I remember leaving and her saying, please, can you stay? Can we talk? I was like, no, I need to go fight. I don't need your negative energy. I just need to focus on this fight. And I did it, got my hand raised, and I come to realize that relationship was over. The negative stuff, as fighters, we don't need that stuff around us at all. And, we battle stuff in our own mind already. And just to have that opportunity to come in with a positive mind is important as a fighter. And every fighter needs to understand that. The relationships, maybe they're not supposed to happen during a fight career, unless you find your partner that's there to support you no matter what, and don't care how long you're training, how many times you're training, putting in the work, and just be a supporter for you. I mean, every man needs someone to support him, I think, and I have that now. With Amber Miller, my wife, actually Amber Ortiz now. So I've been with someone now for the last 9 years that has changed my life completely. It has made me a better man. My children have a better person around them. And I'm fortunate, everything in life happens for a reason. And this fight career has given me a lot of great things in life, and I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Congratulations on the marriage as well.
Yeah, I never thought I'd get married again. But like I said, man, I found the person that was going to ride or die with me no matter what. And I think COVID helped me out a lot there, because we stayed together for the whole year. And there's like 3 of my friends who ended up getting divorces because they were losing out on money. And I had the same situation with me, where I didn't work for 18 months. And, I take care of my mom. I pay for her house. I take care of my kids. There's a lot of financial upside that I never got an opportunity to make with UFC, that I had to kind of save my money. And, I've invested. I've, have assets, but at the same time, came to a point where I was putting so much money out, there was no money coming in. I was like, shit, man, what am I going to do? And my wife stepped up and said, you know what? I'll get a job. And she works for this company called Monet, and it's healthcare, skincare, hair care. And she started helping out, man. And I was like, wow, all my other friends' wives, they left them. And you said that you're going to help out the family. And that's when I knew that she was the one. She was the one. She's not selfish. She cared about my children as much as as it would be her own children. And she cared about me the same way too. And she goes, I'll live in an apartment with you. I don't give a shit. And like I say, I have a lot of assets that I still pay for, and I don't want to lose them. I don't want to sell them. So, I got to work hard for it. But, I think that's what solidified our relationship completely, is when she said she's willing to give in and help out with the family. And that's that you need, man. You need 2 rocks, for every strong man, there's a strong woman right behind him. Yeah,
you're right. That's spot on. It's a brilliant little story. Thank you for sharing it with us. But what you said beforehand were The Ultimate Fighter. Funnily enough, I've been watching a lot of little highlight videos from The Ultimate Fighters, and that season 3 with Ken Shamrock, you had his head up his like he didn't know what to do.
Well, that was the Team Punishment when I first started. That was our group. It was me, Rampage, Rob McCullough, Tiki, Phil Baroni, Rico Rodriguez. I mean, and we would talk shit to each other all the time. So you got to have thick skin, and you got to have smart comebacks. And with Shamrock, that was so easy. I mean, he was just like a juice head. It was just I pushed the button, and it was just like, I watch this guy explode. But it was a great opportunity. I think The Ultimate Fighter helped me a lot, because it brought me a lot of fairness of really understanding who I truly was. I come from a wrestling background. I have, I want to be a wrestling coach. I want to be a mentor, and I was able to do that. Michael Bisping was on the team. Kendall Grove was on the team. Matt Hamill was on the team. We had some studs on there, and they listened. Kendall Grove was the one that wasn't really supposed to win it, but he put in the work to make it happen. He never questioned anything. Once again, Michael Bisping, I would push the guy, try to make him quit, and he would do everything with a smile on his face. That guy was like, you're a stud, dude. And I remember pulling him aside going, none of these guys can with you. None of these guys, they're not going to come close to you. You understand that? I go, just do the work. But I think he kind of took a bad liking to me, because I had Matt Hamill as my number 1 pick. Because once again, he was a deaf kid, but he was super, super tough. I never wrestled anybody as tough as him at that time. He used to take me down, and guys never took me down. So I just thought if I was able to mold him a little bit, I would help him. I think Bisping kind of thought I took a liking to him and not to Bisping, that he kind of took it to heart. And, hard love's usually the best love sometimes. And with Bisping, he showed everyone that he can be the world champion. And I'm proud of the guy, man. Super proud of the guy. But the Ultimate Fighter was great, and it kind of gives a great segue of right now doing with Freedom Fight Night, the company that I'm working with, and we're trying to build new fighters of making the next, hopefully the next Paddy the Baddies, you know, the guys who could be superstars and great fighters. And then, you know, that's what we're working on here in Arizona. We got an event on November 4th here in Phoenix, Arizona. So we're just trying to look for new talent of doing that. You know, we're not competing with the UFC. We don't want to compete with the UFC. UFC is the Super Bowl of mixed martial arts, and it'll always be the Super Bowl of mixed martial arts. But we want to give guys kind of a stepping stool to get to that position. So that's what myself, Frank Mir, and Quentin Rampage Jackson, and Harrison Rogers, we're all doing this together here in Phoenix, and we've already had 2 shows. We're having our third show on November 4th. So this is the back business, you know. This is the end of the game business for me. I know I'm not going to be able to fight for the rest of my life. I'll probably compete one more time. We're trying to get this pussy Chael Sonnen to fight, but all he is a mouth, and I don't like the. So either I'm going to punch him in person and go to jail for it, or I'm going to get paid for it. So either one, it's going to happen. I need the guy to stop making excuses and telling Bellator has to make their contract decisions, or his manager Tiki has to make his contract decisions. I mean, be a man of your word and step up. You said you tapped me. Let's see if you can do it again. I made him look like a little bitch, so I would love to do that again. I'm going to do it either in person, like I say, or get paid for it. So I just dislike the guy. I mean, that guy kind of drew the line with me. I gave him an opportunity to apologize, and he didn't. So I just dislike the guy completely. I don't hate many, but that was one person I do hate.
Yeah, to be honest, Chael's always talking about me, and he's even done videos where I've said he's talking about me mentioning him talking about me, and I'm just like, what are you doing, lad? Like, stop making videos about me. I don't know you. But he just does what he does, doesn't he? He just talk.
Yeah, he's always talk. He's all bullshit. He don't has nothing to back it. But you know what? The good thing is always learn. If they're talking about you, it's good.
Yeah.
The problem is when they stop talking about you. That's when. But hey, you take it as it comes, and let me tell you, if he finally signs the contract, I'll smash his ass for you, buddy.
Yes, lad. But obviously then you left the UFC, and as you say, you went to Bellator, and did you have other opportunities then, aside from just the fighting? Know what I mean? Did you have bigger things as well?
Working on bigger things. Yeah. You know, with the UFC, it was a time for me to walk away. Once again, I was going through a horrible relationship, and that wasn't helping at all. You know, I went on a 5-year with losing streak, which I was in my relationship that whole time of that 5-year losing streak. And I come to realize that the psychological side of it is a huge part of every fighter. And when you have someone every day telling you you're a piece of shit dad and you're a piece of shit person, and it was their problem, it came to a factor that I had to walk away, you know, and Dana didn't help at all. You know, he was always on my ass, and I get it. We had our battles against each other. You know, we're 2 alpha males in a room and having a pissing contest, and you don't want to get a pissing contest with Dana. And I really didn't understand it at the time because I was a kid learning. And I look back on it, and I probably shouldn't have wore a t-shirt that said Dana's my bitch. I admit that. That's probably one of my biggest mistakes.
That's one of the most iconic pictures in UFC history, though, to be fair. It is. Like, that because obviously I started watching the sport after that. I saw that like years later and was just like, wow.
Yeah, we had it at each other's necks, and when we were good friends prior to that. You know, he was my manager before he was UFC president. We had good times together, and you know, I miss those. You know, he's a really good dude, and but you know, business comes first. I get it. He was in a route of making UFC huge or what it is today, and you know, I really didn't see that vision that he had. I wish I would have. I think I would have played things a little differently. But you know, at the end of the day, I learned negotiation from him. It was either his way or no way, and that's the way I thought. I said, it's my way or no way. And I think that might have been my little mistake, but you know, he's a few years older than me. We were so close friends that we talked shit to each other all the time that I thought talking shit is okay. But I think he took to heart a lot of things that I said, and I took to heart a lot of things he said. You know, of him calling me, you know, a pussy or a stupid man. It's like, a stupid man can't be a multimillionaire. A stupid man can't run a business. A stupid man can't, you know, run a family. I think in my mind, and successfully, I've done through my career. I'm very fortunate. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here on your podcast if I wasn't a name or if I wasn't a smart businessman. So I take it, like a grain of salt from him, things he says sometimes. But when you say it over and over and over again, you make people believe it. And it's a shame, man. I wish I was kind of accepted to the UFC a lot more than I am now. But I get it. It is what it is. I can go on the backside of it and go through other fighters and go through other organizations and do other movie stuff and things like that. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for a while, a long time actually. I got a family to build, my children, and hopefully build other fighters to be the next Tito Ortiz's or to be the next baddies. It's important to. You always got to give back. I don't ever want to be a taker. I'm always a giver. I always want to give back and make sure I do the right thing in this world right now. So when I'm long gone, people look back and go, that Tito Ortiz guy, he actually was a good dude. That's important to me. It's really important. It's important to my children too. Knowing that their father was a hardworking person that was willing to do anything to help the sport and to help his family. It's important to me.
Yeah, you're definitely going to leave a legacy. You don't need to worry about that, and a good legacy. But the way you mentioned Dana White, I have to ask, because you were meant to box at one point, wasn't you? You were meant to actually have a boxing match.
Yes, that actually was supposed to happen. It was in a contract and everything.
That's crazy.
But when it was supposed to be 50-50 on any money that was revenued from the fight. And then when it came about to the contract to sign, and I've always signed a bout agreement for a fight that I was doing, that wasn't in it. I wasn't making nothing out of it. It was a lose-lose situation for me. And I said, the fight's not happening. And this was a month before the fight. They showed on Spike TV for a 3-hour session of Dana flying around in his Lear jets, getting ready for the fight and everything. It was never supposed to happen. There was an opportunity for Dana to be a superstar, and he got that position, and he ran with it, and he did well. He did it well. Me and Danny used to spar a lot when I first got into it because I never knew how to box. And then, as I got the better of him, and I got bigger and I got faster and I got stronger and I was the world champion, he was like, all right, me and you can't spar anymore. I go, why? He goes, you're fucking hurting me, man. I'm like, okay, all right, that's fine. But then there was negotiating one of my contracts, and I said to Lorenzo, I said, but we need to put this clause in that me and Dana will box on TV. And we're supposed to do it on Spike, and ended up, the contract came and said I was not making zero off of it. I was like, hold on a second. I thought you said we're going to do 50-50. He's like, no, we can't do that. I was like, well, then I'm not fighting. I go, but just don't go on the scale and saying Tito's a no-show and he's afraid to fight me. Well, shit, that's exactly what he did. But it is what it is. And everybody kind of questions it of why I didn't fight him. And let me tell you, I'm not fighting anybody for free. And he was doing it to make a name of himself, and he did well. And it was a lose-lose situation for me and a win-win situation for him. And like I say, to this date, he wouldn't have lasted out of the second round. No way. But that is what it is. And
well, there's the clarity.
I try to stand my ground.
There's the clarity for everyone that ever asked you about it. Everyone knows now. That's why it never happened, because the 50-50 split went in there. And I can understand that, because I wouldn't fight for free either. Who's going to fight for free?
A 22-year-old Tito Ortiz in his first fight, UFC 13, who didn't give a as you get older, you realize that you got to make sure you're able to provide for your family, because this fight career can only be so long. Some guys only have a 5-year fight career. Some guys only have a 10-year fight career. Some guys only have a 15-year fight career. And there's not many guys who have a 25-year fight career like I've had. And I've been fortunate. I've been smart about it. And the only damage I've ever taken that was super bad, it was to my spine. I had lower back surgery. I've had 4 neck surgeries, but I've had a great surgeon. I'm very thankful of it, because I've been able to heal 100%. No problems, no aches, no pains. My body's doing good. It's kind of like my body got, rejuvenated. I'm very fortunate.
Yeah, well, because we mentioned boxing, lastly, before I move on to the Ask Paddy segment, what I do before the end of each podcast, obviously you ended up having in your professional boxing debut, didn't you? Against the one and only Anderson Silva. And as you say, though, you're a wrestler.
Yeah,
you're a wrestler, and he's one of the best MMA strikers of all time. Like, why did you say yeah to that?
Why would? I'm not afraid of anyone. I'll take a chance. And this goes back to the COVID situation. When you don't work for 18 months and you need to pay the bills, I get a call a month before the fight. I was 240 pounds. They said, you got to get down to 195 if you want to fight Anderson Silva. I was like, fuck, let's do this. Why not? It's a boxing match I've never done before. Let's do it. So for a month, I cut 40 pounds. I got down to 200 pounds because I couldn't make 195. That was not happening. I never made 195 since I've been like a freshman in college. But making 200 pounds, I almost killed myself in 4 weeks. I cut 40 pounds and I had pins and needles through my whole body. When I was at 200 pounds, God, I was pissing blood by about 8 hours after the weigh-ins, after I finally got fluid in my body. My body was shutting down, but I believe in myself. I want to take a chance. You know, you never know. What if I would have knocked out Anderson Silva? You never know. I mean, everybody got a puncher's chance, you know. For me to say no, I think I would have regretted it. But I was thankful. You know, I kind of got something to open my eyes to realize when I watched the fight of how drained I truly was. And I was drained. I was really drained. He clipped me with a good right hook. And I remember seeing the ring ropes, and that's all I remember, because he hit me with like 3 punches behind the head because I had a big ass swelling on the back of my head. The ref never seen it. I mean, I really didn't complain about it. It was what it was, but it was a learning experience. I love the learning experiences. It was against one of the best strikers in MMA history, and you know he's coming up on the fight now against Jake Paul, and I don't think Jake Paul is going to make it out of 3 rounds. I mean, that's my opinion, but I think it's going to be a great fight because I know Jake Paul puts in great work. But I'm glad Anderson is actually getting what he wants right now. He deserves it. You know, he's one of the greatest, and he is the GOAT of MMA. I respect the guy completely. You know, after that fight was over, coming back home from Florida, I had first class. My wife was supposed to have first class, and Anderson gave his ticket up for my wife to sit next to me. He gave up his first class ticket, and he sat in my wife's seat in the exit row. But like I said, the trailer at the time, they double booked tickets. There wasn't enough seats, and I was like, man, my wife's going to sit in the back. Oh, fuck that, I'll sit in the back. And then Anderson's like, no, she could sit with you. You could have my seat. Because actually he was sitting next to me in first class, and that's respectful of the guy, man. I got to give respect to the guy for sure. He's an awesome man.
Yeah, he is. As you say, he's one of the GOATs, definitely. And I'm with you on the prediction as well, though. I can't see Jake Paul getting out of 3. There's no chance. He's gonna realise what it's like fighting an actual striker, and he's gonna get bingoed.
Jake Paul thinks him being 47 is going to make a difference. He's going to be in a rude awakening. One thing about Anderson, he takes his sport very seriously. He takes it as a martial arts. I know he doesn't drink. He doesn't party. He's a family man. He eats, sleeps, trains, family. That's all he does. And he takes this stuff seriously. So for Jake Paul to say that he's 47, age is not even a factor for Anderson. You know, when he gets in 50, 51, 52, yes. But at 47, I mean, I'm 47 and I feel like I'm 35. I mean, I feel great. I'm healthy. I'm strong. Age is not a factor in this fight for sure. No way.
So lastly, what is next for you, Tito, before we move on to the Ask Paddy segment? It's questions for me and you, to be honest, but it gets called the Ask Paddy segment. So we'll go over them next. But before that, what is next for you, apart from Chael Sonnen?
So right now, like I said, yeah, you know, we're trying to get this Chael Sonnen pussy to sign the fight. You know, and they say the P's for legend pussy. I don't know. I don't know what I need to do. I mean, I'm already waving a $400,000 price tag in front of his face, and he's not biting onto it. So I want to shut him up once and for all, and maybe we can crush everything and get it done. But you know, until then, I don't know. I got to wait for this guy to kind of make the call. The ball's in his corner. After that fight, I think I'll be done after that, and I'm going to continue working with Freedom Fight Night and working on doing team atmosphere for each state. And there'll be team versus team, and they'll get points, and they'll get extra money after if the team wins, if they win the championship. So it's something a little different, but I think it'll be fun. And the people that we're working with is going to make it happen. And I'm just excited to happen what happens in the future. And it's business. Like I say, it's something that I love, and to be a mentor towards other fighters and to kind of guide them the right way and not do the mistakes that I did through my career is important. And I tried to do that a few times with a lot of other fighters that I worked with, and they really don't want to listen. but you got to let people learn on their own mistakes. And like I say, at the end of the day, just try to be a mentor to a lot of fighters. I've done a lot through my life, done more through my fight career, but after 25 years, you learn your ups and downs, the rights and wrongs, and kind of correct everything and do it the right way from this point on.
Yeah, brilliant. So I'll go right into this Ask Paddy segment, lad. First one, Jacob Sparks asks, question for Tito, how much weight would he gain between fights and what's the most he's ever had to cut? If you just answered that, is 40 pounds the most you've ever had to cut?
Yeah, 40 was the most I had to cut. That was just for the boxing match, but for MMA fight, it was against 34 pounds in 2 days, and that was against Minotaur Nogueira. It was in Canada. In Canada, it was about 17 degrees outside, so it was hella cold. And I remember doing the salt bath. I remember doing the sauna. I remember getting carried out of the salt bath into the bed. It was like I had no energy for it. It was the hardest thing in the world. But gaining the weight back, I think I put on about 29 pounds in 6 hours. And that was probably the hardest cut I did and gained the most weight back. And I lost the fight. I wasn't prepared. Mentally, I wasn't prepared. Physically, I wasn't prepared. But in a preparation fight where I know I'm in great shape, it's usually a 20-pound cut. And I do it within 3 days. And I put back on probably about 18 pounds within the first 6 hours. And I feel fine. I feel 100%. But yeah, to answer that question.
Yeah, like people always say it to me about when I cut weight, because people think, it's crazy, people think I walk around at 155. I'm like, no, I don't walk around at 155. You know what I mean? On a good day, I walk around at 185. And on a day when I'm eating lots of food, it's like 200 pounds. So people, they just don't understand the weight difference.
Yeah, a lot of it too is it's fight shape. You're in fight shape. Like me in fight shape, I'm 225. When I'm out of fight shape, I'm walking around 235. So there's a big difference in between. And I'm in such great shape that the weight comes off super, super easy. And it's all water weight. I'm not losing any muscle. I'm just losing water weight. That's it. It's like just getting a sponge and getting it completely wet and wringing it out. And then it's dry and you drop it back in a bucket of water and it soaks up the water. That's exactly what the muscles do.
Yeah.
And it's good. I learned that in college doing the weight cuts. Wrestling helped me out a lot with that, because when I used to cut weight for college, it was more of, cutting and starving myself. Well, as I got into fighting, I kind of realized that I could eat the day before the weigh-ins and not have a problem. I'd eat little small meals, just a portion of the size of meals that I eat, and make sure I eat the right stuff, complex carbs, whatever I drank or ate is what I weighed. Whatever that weighed is what I weigh. It wasn't I was weighing any extra or I was gaining extra weight. It was like literally 8 ounces of water is half a pound. I would eat half a pound of water or half a pound of food and half a pound of water, or a quarter pound of food and 3/4 pounds of water. And I would cut 7 pounds, gain back a pound, cut another 7 pounds, gain back a pound. The last day would be cut the 8 pounds or 7 pounds or however much I floated during the night and make weight. And Pedialyte was the first thing I drank, because that was like a cork in my ass, so I wouldn't have the shits. And that's super important.
It's another one here from Noah Samuel. It's asked about Bisbane as well. After you mentioned them, it says, do you keep in touch with Bisbane? Bisbane always says great things about him because of what a great instructor he was.
Yeah, I talked to Bisbane here and there. He actually went to Jason Perillo, who was my boxing trainer, and won a world title. But I know his son Caleb's doing really well in wrestling, and it's just good to see the father that he is. I know he travels a lot, doing a lot of motivational speaking and stuff, and he's a good guy. He's gone through some hard times, and he's been able to prevail, and he's doing well with his family, and it's a proud thing you got to be for a father to look back at his kids and going, I'm doing well. And like I said, I respect the man, and I haven't talked to him last time I talked to him was probably 7 months ago at Ruka at the gym.
I've got one more question. There is one here, but it says, how do you find the line where trash talk can get too far? And you've already answered that brilliantly with your 3 rules, so I won't even go there. But good question, Mesmer. But last one, how am I even? Mega Slarach, however you say it. If I've said it wrong, I'm sorry. Did this ground and pound game come naturally, or did you develop it? And what's the key key reason Tito believes his ground and pound was so effective? And that's a brilliant question, because that's what you were known for, your ground and pound. You're one of the pioneers of it, just putting people to TKOing people with ground and pound.
You know, I think a lot of it came of development as I got better and better and better. I got more comfortable in for someone's guard. They couldn't hit me with the arm bar because I'd always follow the hips. They couldn't hit me with the triangle because I always kept my head up strong. I would watch a lot of Don Fry, Jeremy Horn, and Couture, a little bit of the ground and pound, just because of the positions he would have when you put the guy on the fence. I would use the fence as my weapon. I'd put the guy's head in the fence, and if they wouldn't stand up, I'm going to smash them in their guard all day. And when I throw an elbow, I didn't just throw my elbow. I threw my whole body into the elbow. So I would split their faces in half. I try to shove my face to the back of their head. But that was the ground and pound. I tried to be vicious. I wasn't afraid of anybody's submissions. I would smash them. They would try to pull guard on me. I'm going to smash them. And that's what I did. I smashed them. Yeah,
you did, and very well. But no, what? Sorry, can I just ask one more personal question? I wanted to ask one more question. It's my own question. No, when you do, because I watched the season of you and Chuck on The Ultimate Fighter. I watched that season. That was when I was first getting into MMA, and that was one of the first seasons that I watched live. And I can remember at the time being shocked that you got took out of it. You know what I mean? Like, do you reckon that was because you and Dana didn't get on, that he just got you out? Because I couldn't believe that. You know what I mean? It was towards the end of the series, and you was a coach. You know what I mean? You was the team's coach the whole way through, and then he took you out and put Rich Franklin in for like the last week or something.
So that was what they didn't show was me getting neck surgery 4 weeks later. I had C6. And they didn't say nothing about that at all. It was Tito's out and he's done, and that's it. Never gave me an opportunity to finish with my guys who I was coaching through the whole season. I put so much hard work and dedication into that, and it was just a disrespectful move by them. But like I say, it was a learning experience. You kind of understand of the politics in it, that you can't really do much about it. You just kind of gotta let it happen. And I think it pissed me off more than ever, and that's why I just got more and more angry between me and Dana, because I thought it was bullshit. Can't pull away a coach that has been there for their guys for 8 weeks and say, you're gone. Now here comes Rich Frank to come and try to train the guys to fight for, be the ultimate fighter. And I never got that opportunity. And Chuck had, he was always a yes man. And I just couldn't be that guy. I'm not that type of person. I stand for my own rights. I stand for my beliefs. And I got to stick to those guns. Integrity is my key word at the end of the day. I got to have the integrity. If I don't have integrity, I can't look in the mirror and be respectful for myself, my name, my word. So it was too bad it turned out that way. But, it is what it is. I just hope a lot of fans didn't see it as how Tito Ortiz pulled out of a fight with Chuck. It wasn't that. It was the fact that I had a ruptured disc in my neck and I had to get emergency surgery. I think it was like 2 weeks later. But it was what it was. So I look at it and I couldn't control it. All I could control was in my surroundings, and that wasn't in my surroundings. That was Dana's part.
Yeah, as I say, that was something that I wanted to ask you that, because that was one of the first seasons of The Ultimate Fighter I watched as a young lad. I think I was 16 or at the time, yeah. I hadn't even had an MMA fight yet, and I was just watching it, loving it. And as I say, it's something that I've always wanted to know, like, why did he say you can't do it no more? Obviously, they had a week left. Just get a different fighter in to fight Chuck. But well, at least I've asked you and I've got to the bottom of it. Is there anyone you want to shout out, Tito, or tell everyone about your social medias, where to find you on Instagram, Twitter, just before we finish?
Yeah, of course. On Twitter, it's Tito Ortiz. On Instagram is Tito Ortiz IG. It used to be Tito Ortiz 1999, but Instagram took away they took it away, took down my whole site.
I know that one, Tito. I know that one. Hey, that Instagram.
Yeah. So Tito Ortiz IG on Instagram. Follow me. I'm a family man, fighter, businessman. I work hard, man. I'm trying to chase this American dream, and it's alive, and I just got to work for it, and I'm all in. So, Paddy, thank you very much, man. I mean, a little advice that I can give you is keep doing what you're doing. Keep training hard, doing what you're doing, making sure that you're a name that everybody recognizes, everybody knows, everybody listens to, and don't hold back what you want to say, man. Say the shit that you want to say, because it's important. Everybody wants to say it, but they're too damn afraid to say shit.
Thank you very much, Tito. Really appreciate your time and the words of advice. It means a lot. Thank you very much. Nice one for coming on. So there you go, people.
Awesome. Cheers.
episode done with a MMA legend and pioneer, Tito Ortiz. So we'll see you again next week.